So in this video, I'm going to be talking about my experience of intermittent fasting. So throughout the last 9 months, I've been on a health and fitness journey. I've lost 35 pounds so far and have dramatically changed both the physique of my body, but also how I feel, so how I'm feeling mentally, how I'm feeling physically, the energy that I have. Has been a really transformative year so far for me. And I'm at the point now where I wanted to share a bit of my journey. I'm still very much on my journey. I'd set myself some goals for the year. I'm not quite there, but I'm so nearly there. So I wanted to talk about the various different things that I have done this year. So the real difference for me this year is I haven't stuck to one thing. I have done lots of different things because one of the things I've realised is that for me, I get bored very quickly. I lose motivation. I think that's true for so many of us. So if you're like me, you start something, you lose motivation, or you get bored of it, you fall off the wagon, you put weight back on, or you stop exercising, or whatever it is, and you stop going towards your health and fitness goals, then maybe my kind of plan will work for you, which has been to try new things that I've been interested in, see how it goes, and then plateau in between doing different things so that I'm not kind of reversing all of the hard work, all of the good work that I've done. I'm maintaining, whether that's a weight loss or fitness or whatever. I'm implementing the changes that I want. I'm keeping up with the good habits that I learn, and then I'm trying new things. So I did the 75-hard challenge at the beginning of the year, and then after stopping that, I did intermittent fasting. So that's what this video is going to be about. It's my journey with intermittent fasting, how I found that, what I did particularly, because as it turns out, there's so many different kinds of ways to do intermittent fasting. Who knew? Not me until I started looking into it. So when I started to hear about intermittent fasting, I was quite interested in it, and I binge watched all of the YouTube videos, and then I decided to go with the 16-8 plan of intermittent fasting. So what that is you fast for 16 hours and then you eat within an 8-hour eating window. So one of the things that really appealed to me with intermittent fasting is I didn't have to count calories. Because I have 3 small children, I don't enjoy counting calories. I don't think anyone does really, do they? But I find it really hard to do. I'm also mostly eating meals as a family. I'm preparing meals for everyone, and I didn't really want to be having to make separate meals for me. So I didn't want to be doing anything which meant that that would be necessary. So lots of other ways of doing intermittent fasting. First time I heard about intermittent fasting was from my parents, and they did the kind of 500 calorie, the 5-2 intermittent fastings. I was going into this with, as I said, 3 small children, but also a baby who was breastfeeding. And from the research I did, it didn't seem to be suitable to do any kind of dramatic fasting while breastfeeding. I was very keen to make sure that I was healthy, safe, not passing out anywhere, and also that I kept up my milk supply for feeding my baby. So something so dramatic like the 5-2, I say dramatic, I don't think it is that extreme, is it? But for me it would have been, there are more extreme kind of intermittent fasting regimes, plans, what are we calling them? I don't know, regime sounds a bit dramatic, doesn't it? But anyway, there's more kind of extreme levels of intermittent fasting. Some people have 1 meal a day. Some people fast every other day, so having absolutely nothing but water. I decided to go for the 16-8. I'm eating within an 8-hour window. And actually I found that it was easier than I realised to do this. So I found that naturally I wasn't having my breakfast until after I got back from taking my son to school, and then it might be after I put the baby for their first morning nap as well. So I was generally starting my eating window kind of late morning, maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, and then I was aiming to get all of my meals in within that 8-hour window. And then the idea is when your 8-hour window is done, you are done. You don't consume any more calories in terms of snacks, meals, etc. And mostly I think people just have water. And that's one thing I didn't do as such. So I would have a more kind of, I had a vegan chai latte in the morning, and I would generally have that first thing, which technically contains some like milk alternatives. I don't know if it's oat milk or whatever it is, but it has something in it. It is not just water. Some people have black coffee and water, but there seemed to be like a big no-no from things I was reading about having milk or cream in your tea and coffee. And anyway, I immediately disregarded that, and it made no real difference to me, I think. So I found that was a big no. I wasn't going to do that. It's funny, isn't it, when you start something and then like what things are you realise are like non-negotiables in your life. Like having a cup of tea or my chai latte or whatever it was in the morning was a non-negotiable. And I don't drink coffee. I do drink a bit of coffee, but I do not drink coffee in the morning. I don't like coffee in the morning, and I 100% do not like black coffee. But I'm sure if you're going to make this like a permanent change in your life and you really want to be that strict, you just get used to it, right? You would just get used to having black coffee, and I think you could put sugar-free syrups in, that would be no problem. So, but I personally wanted to see, like, does this make a real big difference? Would I still be able to like lose weight? Which was the aim for me during this particular challenge. Would I be able to lose weight if I wasn't being that strict? But certainly in terms of consuming meals and snacks, I was keeping those within the 8-hour window, and there was no kind of deviation while I was doing this. So generally speaking, I was aiming to keep my meals as healthy as possible. So there's no calorie restriction during this time, during your eating window. You can technically eat as many calories as you want, but ultimately, you know, this is just science. In order to lose weight, you have to be eating fewer calories than you need, okay? So if I'm eating 3,000 calories a day, then I'm not going to be losing weight. So I need to make sure that I'm still eating in a calorie deficit. But I don't want to count calories, that's not part of intermittent fasting. But the idea is that by intermittent fasting, you are naturally cutting out some of the calories that you might otherwise have eaten. Whether that's that you're missing a meal, because I know some people would have an 8-hour window, they'd eat 2 big meals and 2 to 3 snacks. I was still eating 3 meals. So I had a late breakfast, I had my lunch, and I had my dinner as usual, and then I would have 1 to 2 snacks during that time. But I was aiming to keep my food healthier, so my snacks would be as healthy as possible, and my meals are generally healthy anyway. I think the real difference for me is snacking in the evening. So I have a definite sugar addiction, and I had certainly going into my kind of year of trying to change my health and fitness, I was having a lot of processed sugar. I was having a lot of sweets and chocolate and cake, and particularly in the late afternoon and the evening. So my meals were relatively healthy already. My snacks were a disaster zone, like an absolute disaster zone. I wasn't drinking much alcohol. I have occasional alcohol. That wasn't a real problem. But my snacks are a major problem. And I really like homemade cake, a nice big wedge of carrot cake, and also a family size bag of Maltesers, which is one of my biggest weaknesses. But generally just any kind of chocolate and sweets. I'm not fussy. So that was a real problem for me. And this was helpful. This is one of the things that appealed to me. So I had already made some real good inroads when I'd done the 75 hard challenge at the beginning of the year. If you're interested in more detail there, I have a separate video on that. But I'd already made some really good inroads into changing my snacking habits. And I thought that intermittent fasting really lent well with that, because it cut out a period of time that I would usually be snacking. So I stuck to intermittent fasting for nearly 3 months. And it was reasonably easy to fit into my days, but I found that for me, it was starting to become increasingly difficult to keep with the same 8-hour window of meals. And by that I mean that I was starting to venture out a little more in the evenings occasionally with my mum friends, nothing too exciting, but the odd dinner here and there. And there was the odd event that I was going to. I had started to go back to work at some point during this time as well from maternity leave. There were some work functions, and I found that my eating window just wasn't staying the same from day to day. And I found that tricky because it meant that there were periods of time where I was more hungry diary. And so what I mean by that is I wasn't able to just stick to starting with my breakfast a bit later in the morning and have my food eaten by 8-9 o'clock in the evening if I was out with clients, if I was going out for dinner with my friends. So then some days I was trying to shift my window to start later in the day, but then the next day bringing my window back to normal, and then the next day it might be later again, and the weekend it'd be all over the place. Or if I was tied up with the kids or the baby took longer to put to bed and I didn't get around to having my dinner, and then I was like, can I eat my dinner? Because technically I'm out of my window, but obviously sensibly, because I'm breastfeeding baby and because I didn't want to go crazy here, meant that my window was getting pushed out some days. And just generally, I got a wee bit bored of intermittent fasting. So as I found with everything I've tried this year, once I start to get to the point where I'm finding it hard to stick to something, I'm getting bored of it, I acknowledge that, stop doing it, give myself a pat on the back for managing what I have, and then I try something else. So that was my experience of intermittent fasting. I lost around about 10 pounds, it might have just been a smidge over 10 pounds, was around about 10 pounds anyway. So I'd lost 12 pounds when I did the 75 hard challenge, and that was 6 weeks I'd done on the 75 hard challenge. I'd lost 12 pounds there. Then I'd lost a few more pounds just on my own, just trying to keep my weight steady. It dropped down by a few pounds before I started intermittent fasting. Then I lost around about 10 pounds. So by this point, when I finished intermittent fasting, I was around about 25 pounds down. So that all adds up. I was around about 25 pounds down, and that made really quite a significant difference for me, both physically in terms of how I felt, but also my energy levels, my outlook. And I found intermittent fasting a very positive experience. It didn't fit quite with my life on a permanent basis, but I can well see how it could be something, a change that you could make, that you could implement for life, to eat within, say, an 8-hour window. I think some of the more extreme versions of intermittent fasting, whether that's one meal a day, or whether that is one day nothing and the other day eating normally, those feel to me like something that I personally could not implement on a long-term basis. Eating within an 8-hour window totally feels like something that I could work into my life going forward on a permanent basis if I wanted to. I don't think it is 100% for me, but if you're interested in it, I found it a positive experience. I did enjoy it. It was a reasonable enough challenge for me to be interested in doing, so that's another thing I found. I need to be challenged, I need to be excited about something to do it. I did find it interesting, so if you're interested, give it a try. And if you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up, it really does help. And consider subscribing for more content from me. Over here on my channel, I'm going to be covering everything health, fitness, weight loss, only all my kind of experience along my health and fitness journey as I head towards my goal. My goal for this year was to get fitter, healthier, sleep better, I'm still working on that one, and to lose 40 pounds. I am 35 pounds down now. So close to that goal, and I think when I get there I might push that a little bit further to perhaps 45 to 50 pounds loss in total, but for now I'm aiming towards that 40 pound goal within the year. And I'm finding that for once, the first time really ever, that I've set a goal for myself in terms of my health, fitness and weight loss, that I am actually going to achieve it. I can't see now how in the next 3 months I won't achieve that 5 pound weight loss, who knows. But I feel like I'm so close to it now. It's gonna happen, right? I'm so positive about it. And for me, this year has just been a real change, and actually enjoying this journey and trying new things. I would love to have you along for the journey. If you would like to subscribe, and see you around for the next one. Bye.